All right, welcome. We're going to move on to section 6.6 called Proportions to find part A. All right, let's take a look at a actual example of this. Sometimes we see at stores, there's kind of like this tag on things, and it says 75% off, right? And it's kind of attached to something. And the question is, how do we calculate the price on the day after, like a holiday, when you see a lot of these things? These things. So for our example, say there's a pumpkin lantern. And it is $12. But the day after Halloween, it's marked off 75%. What's the price? And we're going to be looking at solving these today. And our big thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be using proportions. Now, there are other ways to do this, just like with our other sections. But for 6.6, we will be using proportions to solve them, even if you know a simpler way to use them using the percents. So this one, it's not too bad. What we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be setting up two proportions like this. Let's say that we have one of them is equal to 100. So for example, $12 is 100% of the price that we are looking at. And we're trying to find the price after we've done our 75% off. Now, you might be tempted to put 75% on the bottom as how much we are really looking for after this. But that's simply not true, because if you look at the amount of money that we still need to pay, the amount of money of the original price is only equal to 25%. So it's like we're paying 25% of the total price, because 100% is everything. We chop 75% of it off. If I make our little price, and we say, if we divide it into 4 sections, this sections we are not going to be paying. And we only have 25% left. So I can say, if $12 is the full thing, what would 25% of that total price be? And this is going to get us to our final price. Now, of course, once we've got our two sides set up like this, all we need to do is do a little bit of cross multiplication. So I'm going to get 100A equals 12 times 25. And for that 12 times 25, I'm just going to use my little calculator. 12 times 25. That's going to give me 300 equals 100A. Now, I now need to get my A by itself, but there's something that's really cool that happens when I do these. Because I have 100, I get to divide both sides by 100. This side's easy. I end up with A. And 300 divided by 100. Now remember that whenever we're dividing by a power of 10, so 10, 100, 1,000, any of those things, there's that easy trick to divide. And all I need to do is count the zeros and move the decimal point over. So if I'm dividing 300 by 100, I'm going to take my decimal point, which remember is there, and I'm just going to slide it over 2. 1, 2. And it's going to give me 3. So my final price of my pumpkin lantern the day after Halloween, when it's marked off, is going to be $3. Now, this backwards part where we only need 25% of the total price, only really is important when we are working with prices. And for the homework, you're not going to be doing that. But I just wanted to show you a real-world example and how we can actually use it. A more likely problem might say simply, let's move our paper up and make sure that you guys can see what I'm doing, is one like this. And this is what the problems on the homework are going to look like. Example 1. It's going to say, what is 20% of 30? And in this case, we're going to set it up exactly the same way that we did before when we were doing our problem above. But this time, I only want to find 20%, so I don't need to do any figuring out the total number. I'm just going to say the whole thing is 30 over 100, because 100% of this is 30. And I'm going to set that equal to, I only want 20% of this, and I don't know what that is, so I'm going to set it to be A. So we're going to do our same thing that we've done before. Bit of cross multiplying. And I've got 100A. Ooh, that'll bode well, because that means I'm going to be dividing by 100. And I've got 30 times 20. Now I can use my easy times multiplying by 10 rule. Get rid of those zeros. 3 times 2 is 6. Add those zeros back in. I have 100A equals 600. I want to get rid of that 100. Gone on this side. I've got A equals, and here again, it's really easy for me to do. I can just take my decimal that I know is right there, because that's where the decimal goes, and move it up. And now I have 6. I don't have to put those zeros there, remember, because whenever I write a number, I can chop off any zeros that are this direction from my decimal point. So I can really write it like this, but I don't have to do that. I can just write it as 6 because I like to simplify it. If you feel like you get it, go ahead and go on. Remember, for this section, I want to see the proportion that you're solving. Later, we'll come up with some easier ways, but for now, we are going to continue with our proportions. I'm going to do 2 more examples if you want to stick with me and check them out. Let's see, we're going to take a look at example 2. And this one is going to say, what is 16% of 50? Again, let me just make sure that you guys can see. Perfect. I'm going to say, okay, my whole is 50 over 100. Oops. 50 over 100. And I'm going to set that equal to, I only want 16%, so I want to know what A is. Set it up, I've got 100A equals 50 times 16. Well, this is going to be one that I'm just going to use my little calculator on. 50 times 16 gets me to 800. Okay, now I've got 100A equals 800, because remember I cross multiplied. Sorry, I kind of skipped a step there, but we've been doing it a bunch, so it's okay. And now I'm going to divide by 100. I have A equals, here I'm going to just move my decimal point, 1, 2, 8. It's going to set me up for my answer. Let's do one more. Example 3. This one is going to be, what is 22% of 80? Okay, my whole is 80. I'm going to set that to, I only want 22% of it. Let's do some cross multiplying. 100A. 80 times 22. That is 80 times 22. 1,760. 100A. Okay, divide both sides by 100. To get rid of that 100, I have A equals, now again I'm going to use my trick, my decimal point 1, 2. This is going to get me 17.6 for my answer. Got it? Not too bad, and good luck.